All right, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Derek LeBlanc. I'm president of the Kids Safe Foundation. And so this is kind of my bio, my CV. And so my journey to get here this morning started back in 2013. It was on a dark, cold morning when I was going to work. And typically, I live in West Eugene in Oregon, and I would take my gun with me just in case, because a questionable area. And so on that morning, I left my gun on my kitchen counter with my coffee, because I figure I would, warm my vehicle, come back, get my coffee, my gun, and then I would go to work. Nothing would happen. And I remember vividly, as I crossed my threshold, there was like this little angel telling me that I should grab my gun. I discounted that voice in my head, which was my biggest mistake. And so I opened my driver's side door of my truck, and I noticed there were some feet exiting the rear passenger window of my truck. And so there was somebody inside the vehicle. I ran around the hood of the truck. He was getting to his feet at that point because he kind of did a little dive out. And that was when I put him on the ground, and we started to fight. And I fought with him for close to 10 minutes on the ground. I didn't know if he had a needle, a knife, any kind of weapon that could potentially hurt or kill me. All while I was calling for my girlfriend at the time to get my gun. And so she finally came out with that pistol grip shotgun that would allow her to control the muzzle, call 911. Without even firing a shot, I was saved. And so from that story, I became a gun rights advocate. I also became an instructor. And then I also started this really cool nonprofit called the Kids Safe Foundation. And so I'm really honored to be here to be able to speak to you guys, to meet your families down here in Southern California. And so what I'm going to talk about today is teaching the next generation to defend the Second Amendment. And one of the biggest challenges I see being down here is the lack of availability to education for the kids. And so it's from my personal opinion, my professional experience, that's actually dangerous to our children. Is if we don't educate, we don't take away this novelty, that's how they get hurt. And our previous speaker brought that up very eloquently, especially with his kids. So that was great. So thank you for doing that. And so, part of what I'm going to talk about is how I have developed some tips and tactics that we could utilize to help kind of protect and preserve the civil liberties that we have, and maybe reverse some of the stuff that's happening here in California and across the country. And so part of what I've developed is a special approach to how we educate the next generation and get them involved in the shooting sports. Because in reality, the future of our 2A rights are tied together with the next generation. And they're the future stewards of our 2A rights. And so being able to get to them and sharing with them the stuff that we all hold near and dear, our 2A rights, is really, really important. So we have to make it fun. And so the goal of making our 2A fun is obviously we can do it in an educational setting. We're talking, and part of it is to break down these walls. And currently, it's a very, very toxic environment to be able to talk about guns and gun safety, especially with our kids. And so, part of my talk today is to empower you guys to know that it's okay to talk to our kids about guns. They're completely normal. And my goal for you is to normalize this conversation of gun safety. It's because it's a normal thing, and we should be talking about it. My father gave me my first BB gun at 3 years old. And so I've been shooting my whole entire life. And what's awesome for what I do now is I'm able to give that experience back to a young child. So I'm able to pay this full circle. And so that's how we push back on this stuff that's the further restrictions, because we normalize it. If we normalize it, then we can personalize it. When we personalize it, then we make it relatable. And so that's our goal today. And so part of making the 2A fun is making it so it's inviting. We have a very diverse 2A audience. It crosses all political divides. It crosses all socioeconomics, all of our race, ethnicity, gender as well. Because at the end of the day, the one thing that we all have in common is this 2A right. And it far surpasses anything that they try to say that it is. And so back to kind of the history of what we do as an organization. Back in 2019, I wrote a Senate bill in Oregon that would authorize our program for all first grade public schools. And so we started the process legislatively. And so part of that process was just learning how to navigate the system. And so my goal would be to figure out how to work with a local, San Diego Gun Owners would be a great organization to work with to roll this, and let's start having this conversation. And right now, what's the most challenging for us as gun owners is there's no equal conversation here. It's either you're for it or you're against it, and there's nothing in the middle. And there's a lot of us, I bet, could identify that we're in the middle, and we're caught between these two factions. And all we want to do is, I don't know about you, I just want to be left alone. Like, I'm safe, I'm responsible, I protect myself because that's my responsibility. I protect the people that are around me, my loved ones. Part of that is through education of the kids, but also proper storage of my firearm when I'm not in control of it. And so that's a very, very important component to that. So my goal going forward with working with local groups is to just let's normalize this conversation. You guys can say it with me. Guns are normal. Guns are normal. They're completely normal. They're completely safe. I could have a gun right here, just sitting here. It's not going to mysteriously and magically go off. It takes input, right? It takes this, okay? So it's very common that our gun is demonized. Lawful, responsible gun ownership is demonized. And one thing I want to talk to you guys about today in my talk is to know that it could be lonely here. You might feel alone. But just know there's people all over this state, there's people all over this country that are just like you. And so if I can empower the women, the children to know that obviously for defense purposes, the gun is the most important tool that we have in our toolbox. And so when I make it fun, we take it from the classroom, then we go to the range, and we get to reinforce the safety aspect of what we do. And the goal is, once again, normalizing that conversation, making it relatable, which is my next topic, is making the 2A relatable, No matter what we enjoy, could be black rifles, it could be handguns, it could be shotguns. What we all can relate to is the safety aspect, the importance of education, and obviously the practice, And so when we're talking about making the 2A relatable, we involve our children. We make sure our children are safe. We make sure we teach them the right way. That way it prevents accidents, okay? It shows them responsibility, and also helps make sure that they start this path. And this path is going to go from when they're really, really young, like what he was saying earlier, all the way up to when they're 18, when they can finally vote. And so the goal with making it relatable is to take the situation that we have with the fun and the relatability, but to turn it into votes. Because ultimately, that's what we have to do to change this conversation that we're currently having, which, I don't know about you, I feel like my voice isn't equally represented. We have big tech, we have social media, we have everything working against us, and we're just kind of lost and drowned out. And so that's the unfortunate thing. And that's why if we make it relatable, we bring people out of the woodwork that we never thought would be gun owners. And we have this conversation. Hey, I'm on your team. And it doesn't matter how we vote. We could be left, we could be right, we could be center. But at the end of the day, if we can vote for our two-way rights, we can win. Okay? We are, believe it or not, we are the silent majority. And we don't get the credit that we deserve. Obviously, San Diego Gun Owners and down here, they have a tremendous pack. They have a great, vocal movement, and so I'm glad to be here to kind of talk about it. I think I'm losing my stand here. Oh, hopefully it doesn't fall. So making it relatable. So when I make it relatable, I make it normal, and that's what I'm going to help keep everybody safe. And so next is I got to inspire, right? I got to make it where it's fun, it's an enjoyable, and then I can turn. And I can bring people into the fold. And what used to be, I didn't know it could be like that, because what I've heard on social media or on the TV with the news, I didn't know that. That's not what I heard. And so we can change this conversation. And then quickly, once we make it fun, it's relatable, then we can say, can I see that, right? So it changes that conversation. It goes from we have those walls. When those walls up that were guarded, we're able to bring those walls down. That's when we have this conversation. That's how we get those conversions. Because at the end of the day, especially being down here in California, you guys need conversions. You need people to see the value of our 2A rights. They're more, and believe it or not, they're more relevant now than they've ever been. And one thing I would impress upon is, as we're educating the next generation, is the common talking point is our 2A rights were about hunting. And if we understand history and the founding of our 2A, it's never been about hunting. And so that's where we can use, previous events up to 2020, and we can say how the government has maybe overstepped and infringed on our civil liberties. And so if we can personalize it at that point, we can invoke that emotional response that we need, and that's how we're going to get that conversion. And so we have to convert. And so that's what getting the young children involved is so important. And that's what I've made it my mission. And so as an organization, the Kids Safe Foundation, I'm very pleased to announce that we went over 29,000 kids reached in 5 states yesterday here in San Diego. And I'm going to do a really special social media post about it. I'm trying to put my words together because it's a really important milestone for us as an organization. It's something I'm really, really proud of. Because ultimately, it's about protecting every children. We protect every children by making sure that we educate them. We also give every kid the same opportunity. And so what I mean by that is when we're talking about inclusion, right, is every child gets the same opportunity with our organization, and it's our job to make that happen. And you look here on the photo here, this is my friend Mike Riker. He came to us, he's blind. And so what I used to do when we're talking about accident prevention and teaching kids that we don't want them touching guns, like what he said earlier, stop, don't touch, run away, tell a grown-up, those 4. With him, his fingers are his eyes. And so I had to change my approach. And so I actually taught him what a trigger guard would feel like on a Glock. I taught him where the trigger goes, the trigger safety, and which I totally changed what we typically do, but for him to be safe, because what if he's at a friend's house, like a play date? Play dates, our kids are very, very vulnerable because we don't know the storage of those guns. We don't know how safe those parents are. And so for him, when these are his eyes, if he were ever to come in contact and he didn't know what to do, that's where he could be put in danger. It could be life-ending, life-altering for him and his family. And so that's where, and from that, this is our first class on the range. I might be crying there because I was so proud of him. But we built a special rifle with the help of some really great sponsors, and he was able to compete and participate with 10 other kids on the line, just like any other kid. And it was a very, very powerful moment for me, for him, for his family, because it turned from, I don't think I can do it, to yes, I can. And so everything that you'll see about us and our organization is we believe in putting out a positive message into the universe, into the environments, into San Diego, is we want to bring that positive message. And it's very, very common to have the doom and gloom. The doom and gloom is what sells ad space, right? And so just know that put positive out into the world, promote responsible gun ownership, promote kids' safety. These are the ways that we change the hearts and minds, because ultimately that's what we're trying to do today. And down here, everything we do as an organization is changing the hearts and minds, because the hearts and minds, if we can get to them, we can teach them responsibility. We can also prevent fear. And that's a very common thing down here in California, because it's kind of a taboo to talk to about kids and guns. It should be a normal thing. And the reason I say normal is you tell your child to not touch that hot burner, what's the first thing he's going to do? He's going to go touch that hot burner. That's how the kids learn. And so with my firearms, it could either life-altering or be fatal for him or his brother. And so that's why, obviously, responsibility is really important. And so we got to inspire the next generation. And last, kind of coming close to an end here, is this thing is just, come on, stay with me here, is we have to empower the youth. We have to teach them that it's okay to stand alone. And it might not be a popular thing, especially down here with their friends. They might be kind of shunned. They might be treated a certain way. But it's really, really important for us to, when we're empowering the next generation, is we have to teach them to be able to stand on their own and know that it's going to be okay to be a gun owner, And it's completely normal. Like, the total I saw was 450 million guns in this country. There's an estimated, right? So estimated 450 million guns in this country, over 110 million responsible law-abiding citizens that own firearms. So they're not going anywhere. Okay, they're here, so we have to coexist. And so the way we coexist is making sure that we can get and be a part of this conversation and say, no more. What you've had 30 years to enact all these laws, right, that have led us to this point. Not a single one has helped. And you want a new law? That's not going to help. Okay, so we need to interject our professional experience. We have to be able to take that microphone back from people that want to further restrict and say, hey, let's try something new. And I know it's not popular because there's so much money tied to the gun control movement. There's literally millions and billions of dollars that are associated with taking away your ability to protect yourself and your families. And so we have to see the ulterior motive. They want us disarmed. They want our children to not know about guns because of the important nature of our 2A rights. And so that's, empowering them is standing shoulder to shoulder with them and mentoring them and teaching them independent thought, teaching them it's okay to question authority, right? If it's done responsibly, right? Because, I'm sorry?
Except my authority.
Absolutely. That's the only, and this authority, right? Okay? And so we stand united. And that's my message for today is one that's unifying, because together we can change this stuff. We have to get involved, and we have to make sure that we teach that next generation the importance of helping us fill these gaps and holding the line. So, in closing, I want to thank, Wild Bill Guns for bringing us down here. Wild Bill Tactical for bringing us down here. Obviously, San Diego Gun Owners Radio. You guys joining us for this talk. And you can find out more information on our website, Kids Safe Foundation, and you also can follow us or subscribe on social media. And you can follow us, our work there, and you can also help spread this message and bring this message of inclusion to your area. And so, before I close, is there any questions that I could answer for anyone?
Did anyone raise their hand?
Yeah.
Oh, here. And then I'm just going to hold that.
What's typically the age range of the kids that you educate?
The earliest, the better. And depending on the situation, right? So 4 is a great age because they're into things, right? And that's when we're talking about what to do if they come across a gun. So stop, don't touch, run away, tell a grown-up. We're also educating the parents on the importance of secure storage when that gun's not on our person. From Oregon, I carry a gun everywhere I go, where I can legally, right? But when that gun comes off me at the end of the night, it goes inside of a form of secure storage. That way I help protect the children. I also help prevent theft that way. But it's just a sign of responsibility when it comes to our guns and gun ownership. And I love what you said in your talk, is you brought up with rights do come responsibilities. And I do believe that the majority of gun owners are responsible people. And I think one of the hardest part for us as gun owners is we're lumped in with the illegal guns. We're lumped in with the people with the full autos and the switches and all this other stuff. And that's muddying the water. And that's not us. Like, we are here because we're responsible citizens. We should not be held to a higher standard when the criminals are not. So, but 4 on up, as soon as they can understand like what you're doing is perfect. So very good. Does anybody else have any questions?
And I'll just hold this.
Okay. So how are you getting the word out? I mean, this is the first time I've seen it because I, listen to Gun Owners Radio, belong to A Girl and a Gun, belong to San Diego County Gun Owners. So, and I have 12 grandkids, and we've taught them safety and had all of the women go to a women's group and the men go to the men's groups to learn about safety. So what's your process of getting the word out here?
So
you certainly can't go to a school, can you?
I do in Oregon. Oh yeah, for sure. I'll go in. I'll be in a school in a week. I'll be up there. It's obviously comes down to legislation, public school, yeah, absolutely. Typically, you have to get involved, right? So part of what I'm doing is next week I'm actually going in front of a city council. I'm going to present our program because I'm applying for a permit to be able to blow up a BB gun range because there's a city ordinance. So it's really important we understand the city ordinances, right? So a city ordinance will sometimes prevent you from doing a certain purpose, but if you read the fine print and you figure out how I can get approval, then you can go in there and ask that city council, hey, I got this, I'm insured, I'm legal, I'm trying to do the right thing, can you support what I'm trying to do? And so I'm probably going to, where I'm going in the state of Oregon, I'm probably going to get a 7-0 in favor, so that's great. Down here, it's going to take, you're going to have to practice this message, right? You're going to have to see what works. My recommendation is we're very soft with the messaging, right? We're not trying to get into controversy here. We're just trying to have a conversation. And so it starts with that first conversation. Social media has been really, really challenging because of the algorithms. They don't want this stuff getting out. And they don't want people to know about gun safety. They don't want to know about a girl and a gun because it's counter to everything that funds social media. And that's what we have to see. It's a money game. It's a money grab. And also, it puts all of our children at risk because if we can't reach the families because of big tech censorship, that's actually could cost lives. So we can actually sit there and say, hey, well, what you're doing, big tech, is actually counterproductive to the safety of our families and our societies. So that'd be my position. So I hope that helps you. Yeah, yes, sir.
So I know Portland, Oregon's a pretty left-wing area. How about Grants Pass to Ashland? How's that area?
We got pockets everywhere.
What about Grants Pass to Ashland?
So Grants Pass would be a great place. And one thing that I will never, ever be fearful of going anywhere in this country to do what's right. And that would be my advice for every one of you here. Never, ever be afraid to do what's right. And what we're doing here is what's right. And just stand on your conviction. It could be lonely. You could get blowback. You could have people that might not like what you're trying to do. But at the end of the day, he knows you're doing the right thing. And so that's what I would say is everything I want to do is I want to inspire, I want to empower, I want to give you guys the strength. I also want to be a resource for you guys. If you guys ever have questions, comments, concerns, I can give you my business card. You guys, I want to be a trusted resource for you guys. I want to help you guys protect the kids. And we protect the kids by educating the kids. So, any other questions? Can I speak to your situation, like with your daughter? I hope from this talk that we have, because before the speech, the symposium started, we kind of talked. I hope this helped give you some of the tools that you need to talk with her. Great. Is she? Yeah. Okay. And I guess one thing I would say about that is she'll be anti-gun until she needs the gun and being in New York City. So it is. But take it from me. And that's the biggest thing is I never, ever want somebody to go through what I went through. And, I have a scar in the back of my hand from that encounter with that guy. But at the end of the day, I always say it was a feel-good story for me, not for him, because I kept control of the situation. But it led me to here. And I'm so glad to be here. So.
Well, I think, she's coming out in a couple weeks. I think I'll show her my guns, let her handle my guns, talk about the safety, and then even invite her to the range.
Absolutely. Soft baby stuff. And part of what I was going to talk about, and obviously you write it down, and it doesn't. When you're up here, it doesn't always come out that way, as you can tell, or as you know. Excuse me. It's just kit gloves. Treat it like it's kit gloves. Obviously, when I'm in a class, like I have a class here at 2 from 2 to 3, and I wish I could actually demo the guns that I have because I show the parents, the kids, how to properly unload a semi-automatic, right? Is obviously we're dropping our magazine, we're racking the slide. So you can use dummy rounds and you can kind of show her these process and also do it in reverse. So I always do it in reverse. I do it in the class to quiz the kids so what did I do differently? So what I'll do is I'll rack that slide and then I'll drop the magazine and I then they have to think about it for a moment. What did I do differently? And it's kind of a little pop quiz for them. Some of them get it, others don't. And so when let's say I rack that slide, then drop my magazine, the gun's still loaded, what I would do then, and if they say, oh, it's unloaded, I go, are you sure about that? I said, do you want to bet your allowance? And if they say, oh, no, and then at that point, I eject that dummy round. I say, you see this one? It's that one that will hurt or kill someone. And that's where we reinforce everything that we just learned. So, anyone else? Yeah.
So if you're a parent, you're requiring the responsibility of raising that child, it's safe.
Yes.
And parents that are anti-gun, basically, their approach is wish it away.
Right there.
I don't want my child to have anything to do with guns.
Absolutely.
And here's the problem. Your child is going to get educated in guns. And if he doesn't get properly educated by, an instructor who's, doing the right thing and teaching them proper gun safety, they're going to get educated in video games. Every single
100%.
boy in this country
100%.
is on video games
Yep.
where they are shooting them up.
Absolutely.
And that's the education they got.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So, no, if you're a mom and dad and you're thinking, I don't want my son to have or daughter to have anything to do with video games, what happens when they go to Johnny's house? Because they're going to Johnny's house, and
Yep.
and his grandma's got a gun by her bedside, and she forgot to put it away, and there it is, and of course kids are going to go like, "Whoa, look what my grandma's got!"
Yep.
Oh my God, here we go. So yeah,
So in that situation, one thing I always really highly recommend is having conversations about guns and gun storage in other people's homes. And play date's probably the most common way for our kids to be hurt. And so I always say, do you have guns? Do you have guns? Because I'm not going to get the proper response from that parent. The hackles could go up. And so I ask, do you have any unsecured firearms? That's what I recommend, because it's a little bit softer approach. It's like they think for a second, do I have anything that could potentially be unsafe? And that way you're able to have this conversation, normalize, guns and gun safety in the home. And then, you brought up the video game. That's a great point. I saw a study that the average American teen spends over 50 hours a week on video games. And they say we have a gun problem. We don't have a gun problem. We have a lack of education problem because we're not properly educating our kids, because we're letting big tech do it. We're letting social media, we're letting kids YouTube do it, which is not good for our kids. And we're also letting video games raise our kids. So it's as parents, when we're talking about empowerment, is we have to be present as parents. I know it's busy. I know it's hard for us to do everything that we need to do within the day, but at the end of the day, we cannot let big tech raise our children. It's our responsibility. And so that's another thing that I would bring up. And just know that everything that they see, they're sponges. In my class between 2 and 3 today, I'm going to be talking about online safety. I'm going to be talking about video games. I'm going to be talking about appropriate conversations online, because this is all relative to gun safety. It's always the people that have mental health issues that have been raised by first-person shooter video games that are out there committing these horrible acts with a rifle. And then we blame the rifle and not what led up to that violent behavior. And so that would be, let's spend money on the research there. I mean, they always talk about the gun lobby. The gun lobby is dwarfed by the video game lobby. We don't talk about the video game lobby because the video game lobby sends so much money to DC to prevent new laws that will regulate video games, but we want to blame the gun. The gun by itself creates no carnage. It takes that evil actor. And so we're not focusing on the right things in this country. And that's why I'm glad to be here, because I get a new mic. I get to share my story in a different part of the country, especially people that are living under, we could all agree, tyranny. So, our 2A rights are more relevant now than they've ever been. And the only way we keep them and protect them is making sure that our kids know the responsibility that goes into having them. That's my TED Talk. Anybody else? Well, thank you. We're actually shooting BB guns next door. If you guys want to come see what we do, you can learn more about our organization. But I appreciate you guys coming here and listening to me talk. Thank you.